Straighten it out. There you go. Good afternoon. It is 6:40 p.m. November 3rd. So as far as I know, we don't have any results in yet, and I really don't expect the election to be decided tonight, and I certainly don't have a problem with that. I understand. You have to remember, back in the day, uh, this country started, well, the Declaration of Independence, or the signing of the Constitution. Geez, I'm going to have to get this right if I'm running for president. Anyways, 1776. Excuse me. I should be wearing a mask. Anyways, 1776. When they voted back then, there was no way they knew who, and I know like Washington was our first president after the Continental Congress and the Constitution and everything. I know we had presidents before then, and we will get into that in this series of videos that I'm making. But he was pretty much a shoo-in, as I understand. We'll look into this and we'll get all our facts straight. But when you're talking about your fastest mode of travel back then was horseback on unpaved roads, you did not know on election night who won the presidency. Not the president, certainly not the people outside of Washington. Or it what I think our first capital was Philadelphia. Is that right? We're going to get all this down pat because we are not going into 2024 with candidates who do not know the basics about how this country was founded, what's in the Constitution, how much it has changed over the centuries. It's going on 2 centuries. Well, it's over 2 centuries now. See, we need to get all this stuff out in the open and understood. And that's part of the reason I am throwing in my hat for president. I'm running 2024. And I'm going to revise this as I go along. Two things going on here. First is I definitely do not expect to win. I'd be surprised if I got even any votes. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to be hard put to try to change people's minds about voting for me come 2024, because that's 4 years away. And I'm going to be saying a lot of stuff between now and then. But, so I'm not, technically, I'm running for president. Realistically, I'm not. I'm not going to get elected. So I can say what I want. And this is refreshing because what we have is somebody who can speak their mind. Let me put it bluntly, who could speak their mind without being an asshole and without actually getting elected and making this country look like a shithole. That being said, the second thing is I'm running for president because I think I'm going to be enough of a character that people are actually going to start to pay attention. And my thing is, what the DeRps want the least is an educated citizenship, because that works against them. And we are going to get into all of this. There is a lot I would like to educate you about just what I know. On top of that, in the next 4 years, I'm going to be learning a lot also. And we are all going to use that to change this system because the system is broken. Everybody who has stressed as much as we have these last two elections knows this is not the way it's supposed to work. But we'll fix that because we are going into 2024 educated. I'm going to help anybody who doesn't know as much as I do. And I guarantee you, people who know more than me are going to be telling me where I'm off target. But we're gonna look at the history of this country and what the founders actually wanted when they designed the government for this country, and how far it has gone astray from there. And three key things, because these are the things that I'm most knowledgeable about, and I'm not saying I'm real knowledgeable about them, but I think I know more than the average person. We're going to look at the Federal Reserve, how that was started, and why that is oy vey. Well, that's a whole video in itself, and I'm talking like a 3 hour long video, seriously. But it was started by bankers for bankers, and it is a corrupt institution. It's not even technically a government institution. A lot of people don't even know that. So we've got the Federal Reserve, we've got the education system in this country, which was designed by industrialists to make factory workers, which goes hand in hand with a media and the DeRps, who really don't want a highly educated society because that does not work in their favor. Having a society which is educated enough to keep the rich getting richer and to make a decent enough living that they really don't want to revolt, that's what they want. Basically, they want a nation full of factory workers. So we'll go over the education system and how that was designed by industrialists with the government's consent to create factory workers, because America's business is business. And I would just like to underscore that with, and I have not been able to find this. I probably heard it on NPR a long, long time ago. Somebody who wrote a book about the education system. And this was before the internet, so it might not even be on there anywhere except in the form of that book. But one of the things that I remember from that, because this struck me so deeply, our education system used to be revered in Europe because we were among the best in the world, if maybe not the best at that time. But a Frenchman came over here to see what we were doing, how we were doing it, so he could take that back to Europe and revamp theirs to mimic ours. What this Frenchman said was, the American farmer goes out in the morning with the plow under one arm and DeRps under the other, making the point that this is how educated our farmers were. Just think of the people, just think of everybody, just think of the scientists, just think of the manufacturers, just think of everybody who went to college. I mean, if the farmer is going out for the day to work with DeRps under his arm, that's pretty impressive. So we'll go over that. But the three main things are going to be the Federal Reserve, the education system, and what is the third thing that I was so hep on? It'll come to me. But anyways, for now, I'm going to call it the old school party. Originally, I wanted to call it the after school party because it's going to be a party. And it had to have the theme of school in it, but I decided to go with old school party in the example of many, and there's 4 reasons, in the example of many old school teachings, and by that I mean ancient. I'm reading this now. I don't have a teleprompter yet, but I've written this out. Such, okay, I'll just start at the beginning because I diverged from what I was going to say. In the example of many old school teachings, and by that I mean ancient, such as Greek philosophers, where the teacher would tell his students, más o menos, don't take my word for it, figure it out for yourselves. Or, if you don't believe me, test me. If I fail, we'll figure out how and why and set it right. Now, these are obviously not quotes. This is just the gist of the mentality that they brought into teaching. I'm not going to tell you what is what and you have to believe it. I am going to tell you what I discovered. And if I'm wrong, we're going to find out why I'm wrong and fix it. And also, in the vein of the old timey religions, specifically here, Buddhism, where he told his followers, más o menos, don't believe me outright, think it through, and if it seems valid, use it. If it doesn't, discard it. Also, it's old school in there was a level of knowledge and education early in our country's history that we don't enjoy now, and I already discussed that. We'll go through that. And it's old school in that we don't condemn the use of pot or hallucinogenics here. In fact, all drugs were legal at some point in this country and only became illegal one by one to oppress a certain group. I would like to remind my viewers that some of what I throw out there is going to be hard to follow. So it's better if you're not high. As they say, don't smoke and watch Matthew. Or maybe it's go ahead, smoke. Don't watch Matthew. I can't remember. But also, old school in the vein of what the attitude was of the founders in the design of our government. And I think most strikingly, their idea was, and by their idea, they of course were not all in agreement. Some of them were federalists, some of them believed in a republic, some of them believed in a straight out democracy. And just so you know, when I refer to the system, the style of government in this country, I'm going to call it a democracy. I know it's not a straight democracy. It's not a straight republic. It's a combination of things, which includes representation and the Constitution. And if you put all the words in to describe it accurately, I'm not going to do that. It's a democracy. For the sake of our discussions, democracy is close enough. But their idea was the less government, the better. And all government should be viewed with cynicism, and the way to keep that cynicism to the lowest possible amount that they could is to keep the power of the government as small as possible. And we've strayed way far from that. And part of the reason for that is we have, as individuals, allowed ourselves to become disempowered, and through that, we've become more reliant on government for so many things, some of them abstract and others concrete. but we should be far less reliant on government, and we'll get into that. I don't want to burden this video with a lot of information for two reasons. I want to keep it short, and I just haven't rehearsed it. I just wanted to get this out there. It's 6:55 now. I want to get it up. I just want to tell everybody I'm running for president. I'm hoping I'm the first one to throw in my hat. Where's my hat? Oh, I do have a hat. Here. I want to be the first one to throw in my hat. It says, oh, fuck. America was fine until Trump. Anyways, I want to be the first to throw in my hat. And the thing we're going to do in these videos is discuss what the government was originally like, what it has become, how it's improved, and mostly that's I would say just socially with oppressed groups being less oppressed, how it hasn't improved and actually gotten worse, and that's with the plethora of laws that we have, so many that they literally cannot count them. And as I said, we're going to discuss the Federal Reserve. We're going to discuss education. There was a third big thing. Well, the economy, education. Oh, the Electoral College. The Electoral College does not work anymore the way it was designed by the founders in the Constitution. And that is because of the House Reapportionment Act of 1929, which limited the number of House members. So now the number of House members do not proportionally represent anymore the number of people in their states. So much less populous states have a much greater weight of vote per individual than more populous states. And that was never the idea. That's just what it became. And that is screwed up. So we're going to talk about that too. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of other things. I would suggest if you want to put anything in the comments, anything you put there that pertains to economics, policy, governance, either of the two main parties, the third party. And I would like to say my first platform is going to be that at the end of these 4 years, any third party candidate who is in enough states to have enough electoral votes to have a majority. And let me just say, for the sake of this discussion, let's say we have 4 candidates. There's always the Republicans and the Democrats, the Libertarians and the Green Party. Beyond that, if you had a 5th party, they would only need to have 102 electoral votes in order to have the most. If you had a 6th party, they would only need 90 electoral votes to have the most. If you had a 7th party, it would be 77 electoral votes. If you had an 8th party, it would only be 68 electoral votes they would need to have the most, provided that more or less all the others were divided equally. But that being said, I should amend that. With the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all those numbers that I threw out there, they could win with 102, 90, 77, or 68 electoral votes if all the others are divided equally among them. But that's part of this whole thing too. We've only got 2 main parties. That needs to change. By 2024, either every candidate who can possibly win just with the number of electoral votes they have given the number of states that they are actually registered in, they are going to be they are going to be either in the debates, or there's going to be third party candidate debates that run at the same night and the same time that the DeRP debates run. That's my first platform right there. So we're going to educate ourselves, and we are going to have some debates that actually are meaningful from now on. All right. Thank you for allowing me to be your next presidential candidate. And thank you for watching. And if you didn't watch, well, what's wrong with you, man? All right. Talk to you soon.